Grace and peace to you. Friends, this is hard. I'm sure you've seen the news this week, even if you're trying to avoid it. It's one of those weeks when levity has no place, and we have to look at the world straight on. Not only do we have COVID-19 wreaking havoc, with somewhere in the region of 2,500 deaths in the UK in the last week alone. This is breaking lives. It's breaking our hearts. But also the world has erupted in response to the killing of George Floyd, with protests speaking out against racial discrimination. Discrimination shown by individuals, but also the systemic discrimination that has been built up over hundreds of years. The discrimination that is easily missed by those who it doesn't affect. All of this is hard. It's hard because we have to look at ourselves. We have to reflect on our own privilege and our own prejudice. The privilege of space and technology in the face of lockdown, making it all that bit easier. The privilege of living in Scotland, where our communities still benefit from wealth generated by generations ago of slave labour. It could be as simple as a community legacy of a building or a park left a long time ago, but that was paid for on the back of slaves in the New World. It could be, in current times, buying clothes made by people who were paid pennies in far-off lands. We have to look at our own privilege. We have to look where we might be prejudiced in ourselves, and we have to see where we can do better. We have to acknowledge our privilege in the lottery of birth, but also in our lockdown environments. In all of this, nothing is clear-cut. And wherever we fall, we have to respond in compassion, seeking to make society as fair and as just as we possibly can. We have to remember the challenging messages spoken by a dark-skinned outsider some 2,000 years ago, who spoke of people mattering even though they were different, even though they were hurting. The dark-skinned outsider who was persecuted for questioning the political leaders of the day and speaking a message of love. The message that life doesn't have to be this way. The message that life isn't about amassing wealth or power and perfection. The message that standing on people to get things, physically or metaphorically, isn't acceptable. Those words still ring very true, and we're going to hear some of them now, read to us by Catherine.
The reading today is from Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 to 12, and is from the Message. You're blessed. When Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, he climbed up a hillside. Those who were apprenticed to him, the committed, climbed with him. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down and taught his climbing companions. This is what he said. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. You're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink in the best meal you'll ever eat. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, you find yourselves cared for. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. Not only that, count yourselves blessed every time people put you down or throw you out or speak lies about you to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort and they're uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens. Give a cheer even. For though they don't like it, I do. And all heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company. My prophets and witnesses have always got into this kind of trouble. Amen.
Everyone who hurts, you are blessed. Everyone at some point will struggle in life. And as you struggle, God is with you. This is not to say that when things are good, that you are without God. But it speaks of God's bias to those who are lost and those who are hurting. This speaks of God's bias for the poor and the oppressed. Maybe the parable of the lost sheep helps. It isn't that the 99 don't matter anymore. It's just that the one that's lost needs help now. Jesus is not mincing his words in these Beatitudes. The Beatitudes speak of God's bias, and if we follow Christ, if we look to God in any way, then we are to try and follow that lead. To be blessed is to encounter God, to get what your very soul craves in the moments of painful pressure in life, the comfort in grief, the hope when all feels lost, the eye wash when you've been tear-gassed. Not all of us are called to stand on the front lines of protest, and not all of us are able to do so even if we wanted to. But all of us can use whatever platform or privilege we have to speak out. We have to speak out with people who are hurting, with our fellow humans who are suffering. We don't speak out for people, but we speak out with and alongside people, all the while continuing to educate ourselves to better understand what's going on. We need to listen to those affected and take our lead from there. The medical experts and those on the front lines of caring for people with COVID-19, it's them who should inform policy, not the political ideals or economic practice. And we should speak out and say that. People of colour should be informing how things change to make life more just following hundreds of years of injustice. The words of the brown-skinned and politically vocal Son of God who showed a bias to those on the margins. They are a good place to start.
I have a dream, a man once said, where all is perfect peace, where men and women, black and white, stand hand in hand and all unite.
As you pray this week, pray for all that concerns you, but also sit in simplicity and say the Lord's Prayer. If you don't know it, there's a link in the description. But as you say it, remember that at the heart of that prayer, you're remembering your own faults and seeking forgiveness, whilst asking God to bring about a new and radical way of life for all, a way that is just and full of love. If you wish to sing this week, I'd recommend singing all of I Have a Dream a Man Once Said, which is at number 710 in CH4. And in terms of a question this week, I think we need to think about our own privilege, but not only that, about how in light of the Beatitudes, you can change your focus to those who are hurting or struggling in some way, rather than persevering with the status quo or protecting the power of those who have it. But for now, go in love, knowing all life is important. Go in love and know that Black lives matter. Go in love and favour all those on the margins of life. And as you go, may the power of the Holy Spirit fill your heart, that you might make the world a more just and loving place for all those made in the image of God. Amen.